Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. So I get asked, I'm thinking of switching roles to AD, what champion should I play? At least once every single stream, and I always say the exact same three. I thought today that I could share those and my picks for other roles if you want to learn it from scratch, get better, or these would even be really good as off-role champions. We'll start with AD carry since that's the reason for the video really, and the three I always say are Jinx, Sivir, and Caitlyn. All three of these have long range, which means they can farm safely and don't get smacked around in the lane phase, one of the biggest problems that you're going to have to start with. Caitlyn has one of the highest base ranges in the game, which is amazing. Jinx has her rocket range, so you can just farm from that, and Sivir has her W bounces to hit the back line while she's hitting the front line. That will make your lane phase easier, which is really good and a really good start, and it also makes them all very safe, so there's no terrible matchups and you're not going to die a ton. Caitlyn has a massive range, she has a net, Sivir has a spell shield and the speed and the range as well with the W bounces. Jinx has that range, the chompers, and the speed from a passive, but she's the least safe I guess out of the three. For Jinx, you're going to start to win a lot straight away. As soon as you start playing, really, to start with, all you need to do is default have your rockets on and AoE crit people. Swapping to your minigun does improve your damage, but it isn't needed all the time, honestly. Zap is relatively easy to land now as well with the speed increase. The resets are a really big thing though. You mop up fights, you don't need to kite perfectly. You get that one reset and you are going to run around. You're going to stay away from people and win a lot of games kind of just from that. Sivir is kind of the farm god. She farms better than almost any other AD really, which is going to be harder to start with when you learn the role, and it's a bit weird when you have to CS with auto attacks, but Sivir does it with both. That means more gold, and AD carry is way easier with items, and I know that sounds very dumb, but you rely on those items more than any other role, honestly. Then you've also got your ultimate, which is kind of like a get out of jail free card, I guess, but it also helps your team to carry as well, so the pressure isn't just on you. Caitlyn is definitely the safest pick that has no real reliance on anybody else in the game, especially with a bad support. You can still have a good game. This is going to be one of the weirdest things for you when you learn AD carry. You're laning with somebody else. You're not alone anymore and you have to kind of rely on them. With Caitlyn though, you scale well. You are safe, and at a basic level, you're just auto attacking people and waiting for your headshot. You're using your net and Q combo maybe to do some more damage, and that's probably it. Obviously, you have your traps, and they are a very big part that you learn and take her to the next level, but she'll teach you all about kiting, attack moving, and the importance of auto attacks. I know that also sounds really weird because every AD carry has to auto attack, but trust me, with other roles, you aren't auto attacking anywhere near as much as you're going to have to as an AD. Now, jungle is probably one of the hardest roles to actually learn in the game. There is so much going on. It's not like laning at all. You've got the pathing, you have to decide where to go, and I guess there are just way more options in the jungle. So really what we want is a jungler that you can focus on the jungling part with and not so much on the champion. And then once you've learned how to jungle, you can move on to other champions pretty easily. Xin Zhao is one that I always recommend because it's very hard to mess up and it's very hard to lose in the jungle. You're going to win fights versus almost any champion that you find. If you fight for Crab, if you end up 2v2ing, whatever it is, you're probably going to win that fight. He's also pretty easy to play. There's nothing too complicated. You just kind of charge in and press everything and go nuts. So you farm well, you gank well as well, and he'll teach you a lot about fighting as a jungler. Because of that as well, he's also very good if you want to learn how to counter jungle or kind of track down the enemy jungler a bit rather than playing your own game. Now, Warwick is really good to learn the actual jungle if you're completely new. And I mean, like, you haven't really played the jungle that much, so you're going to start with Warwick. The thing with this guy is you don't have to path properly. You can't really get invaded, honestly, because you're Warwick. You farm really well, especially once you have your Temu. So again, if you default to farming, it's not that bad. You never lose health in the jungle, which is another reason you can't really get invaded because you're always very healthy. You're always going to be useful as well. If you mess it up, it doesn't matter. You have your ultimate. You're probably going to win most 1v1s because of your healing and because of your damage reduction and your fear, so you don't really have to worry about too much at all. The point is you're not really focusing on playing Warwick that much. You're playing the jungle. You can look at the map, you can jungle a bit more, and it's really not punishing at all. You can't really mess it up. Now, Vi is one that I always personally recommend because you will always have impact and it teaches you to actually do something as a jungler. If you've ever had a game that you kind of feel like you did nothing and you just AFK'd and stuff, like this is a really good champion to help that. You can farm well quickly, which is really good. Your ganks are decent, but at level 6 you have your ultimate. Now, this is kind of like a guaranteed gank, right? You queue into lane, you press R, you normally are going to get a kill, which is great. Now, every time that is off cooldown, you think, okay, I've got a gank in my back pocket. Where can I go, right? So that makes you have some impact. That teaches you to look at your lanes. That teaches you to track some summoners as well and go to the flashless lanes. Be proactive in a very easy way, and that is kind of like one of the things that a lot of junglers struggle with. Mid lane is one of the most popular lanes, but it's also home to some of the best solo killing champions, and it's more important in Season 9 as well, so there is a little bit more pressure attached and you can kind of mess this up. I always suggest Annie, Ahri, and Lux to learn mid lane, all of which have a good way to control the lane and not just let the enemy mid lane roam for free, or you want to roam yourself. Lux isn't really a roamer though, but she has got good wave clear and poke, which will stop the enemy leaving as much, which is good. Ahri can ultimate into another lane from a whole screen away, but she also pushes well as well, so you have a lot of options. Annie has decent roams with her ultimate, I guess, but also decent pushing power and a lot of threat. So Annie is very simple, but there are some really key reasons why she's so good to learn the role if you're new to it. Your Q is going to help you to last hit, and it also means that you'll get more gold overall from range, and you're not going to run out of mana doing it. You also have a very clear when am I stronger point with your stun ready to go. Working out if you can kill or trade is normally very hard, but it's not with Annie at all. You also have a very clear job to do. Hit someone important with your ultimate stun and blow your load, so you know how you're going to kill somebody straight away from the start of the game, and you don't have to think about it at all. Ahri is the most well-rounded champion that you can play, and she is actually good as a main, not just to learn the role anyway. You're an assassin, you're a mage, you have good wave clear, healing, and extremely safe. As you learn a new role, you're going to end up making a lot of mistakes, which is normally how you die, honestly, and is very normal for learning a role anyway. But with Ahri, you can ultimate away, so you're not always going to die for your mistakes. You also have a very clear thing of hit a charm and I can kill somebody. Otherwise, back out and try again sort of playstyle, which is really going to help when you learn to kill someone. Lux is a little bit different. She's less aggressive, but she's high range and is more utility than the others, while still being able to kill people, especially with her combo. She is a catch champion, right? Safer throwing spells out from further away, which is a pretty different playstyle to the others that we've talked about. You're going to be able to set up a lot more plays as well as your one shot as well. That will help you learn how to team fight as a mage, which is going to be really important moving into any other champion. Support is one of the easier roles to learn to start with at a base level, but it really shows once you've learned how to lane properly, and that is kind of where you show your skill. Now, I normally suggest a Blitzcrank, Morgana, and Sona, depending on what sort of champion you want to play. All of them can have some decent impact, and they're pretty straightforward. Blitzcrank is just a skill shot champion, right? Hit your hook, and good things happen, normally at least, but it really isn't about good knowledge of trading or anything, just how accurate you are. It's also why a lot of people can win as soon as they start to play Blitzcrank more than other supports. There are bad matchups you learn to navigate around, but normally it's just like fish for your Q and repeat over until you hit something. Morgana is actually pretty similar. Try to hit binds and then follow up with your W or your ultimate, but it's a safe play style to learn the lane from far away. Since the update as well, you can also just spam your W once they are below half health, and it does a stupid amount of damage, so at least you have that kind of thing, and you can definitely carry through damage. Obviously, you have your spell shield that can stop most things, but this will teach you the value of cooldowns, as if you kind of waste it, you'll feel naked, you'll feel really weak. It'll make you realize that a lot of bot lane is about who has their spells available and who doesn't, right? So it's kind of like a cooldown game. Sona is a bit different. She's easier to play, but she has more impact to start with and will win you games as soon as you start to swap to support. It's kind of like she'll always be useful. Like, she helps a bad AD farm, she can heal back any bad trades you take, and then has some amazing team fights. She'll teach you how to be a bit more defensive and what a support's job in a team fight is, as well as a bit about poke and setting up fights with your ultimate. The other ones we talked about have kind of been more of an aggressive playstyle, like go in and get something done, whereas Sona is more about relying on your AD just a little bit more and your team and helping them do their job better. Finally, we're going to go into our top lane. Maybe I should use these as well, because all I play is Vayne top, but that's kind of another story. I always say that Nasus, Garen, and Temu are three of the best that you can play to learn the role, but they're all very different. Top lane is a very, very punishing lane if you make a mistake. Like, probably actually the most punishing lane you can play. You're normally melee, but you have a very long lane. You have further to run from your turret, and if you make a mistake, you're more likely to die for it, I think. Now, Nasus is really good because even if you do make mistakes, it honestly doesn't really matter that much. You've got the healing from your passive, which is really good, so you won't get bullied too hard normally, but you are a late game machine, so if you die, it's not the end of the world. Your job is literally to stack up. You know exactly what your job is as you go into game. Press Q, hit CS, and that's pretty much it. Nasus is great to get you used to how top lane sort of plays out, the other champions you'll play against without getting hard punished or like having to actually fight them or do anything. Garen is a bit different. He is there to teach you how to actually fight top lane. Yes, he is simple, but that's not why he's in this video. It's not the point at all. He has a very clear trade pattern. Just Q, run up to somebody, silence them, hit them, and spin or run away. That does teach you to trade to start with, but you learn it faster because your passive heals you back up afterwards. So basically, you can keep doing it throughout the entire lane phase, even if you do it badly, and practice makes perfect. Doing it like 20 times in a game is much better than doing it 5. After that, you are pretty tanky as well. You don't really get punished that much because you're building tank, but you're also building damage, so you have some threat. So he is all around just a really good way to learn to actually fight. Finally, Temu has the range advantage, and that alone makes him way easier to play top lane to learn it. I said earlier that top lane is really punishing, and it is, but it's less punishing in the first place if you play a ranged champion. He's simple, you blind people, auto attack, and that's kind of it. It's sort of cheating a little bit because most top laners are melee, but it'll get you used to the lane before you swap to that melee champion, which is going to be harder. He also has a really good mid to late game when he has his items and can stream, so there's no pressure to win your lane. You can sit back, you can farm, and you will be useful. So those are going to be my picks for the best champions in each role to learn the role properly if you're new to it, but obviously there are going to be way more as well, so if you have any others, let us know why you picked those down below. Thank you for watching until the very end. I should be streaming right now as well, so I'll throw a link to that down below if you want to come and watch, but for now, I will leave you with robots.